Article 2 of the Constitution talks about the executive branch, um, and Section 1 says that the executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. So we know that the President is responsible for executing and enforcing the law, and it says so in Article 2. It says that he will hold an office for a term of 4 years, and then it also indicates that the Vice President will also serve for that same amount of time. Clauses 2 and 3 talk about how we're going to elect the president, and that's for a different video. So I'm going to go ahead and skip that. And 4 also deals with elections. So let's go back to 5. Clause 5 gives the qualifications to be President of the United States. You have to be a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution. Because remember, nobody is a citizen of the United States before it's the United States of America. So we have to put in George Washington is not a natural-born citizen. When he was born, we were under British rule and we were a colony. So some of these people came over from other countries also. So we want to make sure that everyone who is a citizen at the time of the adoption of the Constitution is qualified or it meets the characteristics of being president. So then it goes on, says they have to attain the age of 35. So you have to be 35 years old and have been a resident for 14 years. So they want to make sure that whoever's running for president, especially at that particular time, they've been in the United States for at least 14 years and have gone through all the trials that everyone else has gone through at that particular time. So you have to be a natural-born citizen. You have to have been born in the United States. You have to be 35 years old, and then you also have to have resided in the United States for at least 14 years. Clause 6, you'll notice once again that this part right here is a different shade. That's because there's an amendment. The 25th Amendment took care of that, and that's for a different video also. I'm going to skip Clause 7, going on to Clause 8. This is very, very important. Before he enters office and at the inauguration, the president stands in front of everyone and puts his hand on the Bible and says this oath, and you have to say it just like that. And when Barack Obama was being sworn in, the Chief Justice tried to memorize the oath and kind of messed it up, and so as soon as they went back inside the Capitol after the inauguration was over, they actually administered the oath so that he could say it exactly like it, because people were already saying, oh, he didn't say the oath right, and so he's not actually president. So they went ahead when they got inside the Capitol and they gave him the oath of office so that he would say it word for word. Article 2, Section 2 talks about the expressed powers, and if you want to write that there, these are the expressed powers, the exact powers that the president has. And the first one there says that he is commander-in-chief. The second one down here says that he may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments. And so we're going to talk about the president's cabinet, and that's what that is referring to. So the first one is he is the head of the military. He is the commander-in-chief. Then he can put together and does have executive departments that he gets their opinions on and their expertise in these particular areas. And then he has the power to grant pardons and reprieves. This says reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States. So if someone has committed a federal crime and has been committed to the death penalty, he can grant them a reprieve and lessen their sentence, or he can even pardon them, and that's basically a blanket forgiveness of your crime, and you can go on with your life. He can do that in all federal crimes except for in cases of impeachment. So when a public official has been impeached and kicked out of office, he can't do anything about that. Some other powers that he has, and notice, I want you to notice this, with the advice and consent of the Senate, The Senate is involved and is the check on the president. And so, with the advice and consent of the Senate, he can make treaties, but it takes 2/3 of the Senate to approve a treaty that the president has made with another country. He can appoint ambassadors, ministers, judges to the Supreme Court, and other officers, but he has to get the advice and consent of the Senate, and the Senate has to approve that appointment also. So the president can do several things, but the Senate is always there checking and making sure that they place a check on them, and he does not have absolute power. Let's see, Section 3. This is where we get the State of the Union address. So it doesn't say that he actually has to do it on TV. And for many years, obviously we didn't have TV, but they just would send a letter to Congress. They wouldn't actually show up in person and give it in person. But every year around February, late January, early February, the president goes on TV and gives the State of the Union address. He talks about how the United States is doing. And then this is where he gives his recommendation for laws and things that he would like to see happen over this next term. Another thing that he has the ability to do is, if the House and Senate have adjourned, he can call them back, and he can call what they call a special session. And so if they have gone home, he can call them back if something important is going on and they have left for the session. And then Section 4 talks about how they can be removed from office. And the president shall be removed from office on impeachment for conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. And you remember that the House of Representatives gets to impeach the president. And so when they say that they can be impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors, a high crime and a misdemeanor is whatever the House of Representatives decides that it is. So it's very vague, like the rest of the Constitution. And the very last thing that I want to make sure that you see, and I'm just kind of backtracking a little bit, but I wanted to save this for last. Article 2, Section 3, it says that he shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed and shall commission all the officers of the United States. So his job is to make sure that all the laws are faithfully executed, carried out, enforced. That is his number one job.